a comment that boils down to, do you have to be tall to be a successful sprinter? Then I listened to the analysis of retired and injured athletes from the Rio Olympics. I think I just jumped in a time machine, went back to the 1800s. Deep South. Preach! Testify! Sprinting is all about horizontal velocity. You achieve horizontal velocity by hopping from foot to foot. And when you walk, you can approximate your stride length to the length of your leg, but that's because both feet are on the floor for like a split second. So unless you're doing the splits while you're walking, it's a pretty good correlation. But sprinting requires both feet to be off the floor at the same time, so stride length isn't determined by length of leg, it's determined by power of hop. Being taller doesn't necessarily mean you've got a higher centre of mass. I mean, swimming preferentially selects longer torsos and shorter legs, meaning you're tall with a low centre of mass. Rather than total height, it's longer legs that would ensure a higher centre of mass. But sprinting's an athletic endeavour. I mean, there are 5'9" guys that can dunk and 6'6" guys that can't, despite owning an elevated crotch. This whole tall to be a sprinter thing's the same crooked ass thinking as skin colour determining your brain size, or your sex determining your suitability to hop, skip and jump. And I'm not trying to get all social justice on you. I'm just saying, on examination of the facts, this one's a stinker. It's ignorance. They didn't know. They just made it up from what they saw. It's binary thinking. The problem is when ignorant coaches pass it on to ignorant athletes who believe it, then they become coaches and they pass it on as well, like herpes. Then they get themselves on the TV, and under the light of those studios, they start infecting millions more with this rubbish. When enough people hear it, it becomes a fact. And then youngsters' ears prick up, and they write off entire potential careers by not doing the hours of practice that they should do, because the TV said so. The moral of that story? Stop listening to TV. It's toxic. Listen to YouTube instead. There's a spectrum of stride length and stride frequency. Cue the sound effect. I completely disagree with the notion that the average person's height will disadvantage them in sprinting, and here's why. That argument's been put forward for the small and the tall. It's not a reason if it applies to both sides. The argument goes, tall people can't accelerate. They've got poor stride frequency. They don't make good sprinters. But it's a crutch. It's a lie. It's put around by bad coaches who don't know how to train their athletes individually. Put your front foot 1 foot length behind the line. Put your back foot 1 foot length behind that. Crouch down. Go! Slow out the blocks. No talent. Next! They're trying the battery hen farming method in track. It's a disgusting practice when it's applied to our food. It's equally disgusting when you apply it to teaching people. It takes athletes with a huge strength of character and belief in their abilities to ignore this rubbish and invest the countless hours in the discipline of acceleration to disprove it. Because believe me, it doesn't improve overnight. Who likes working on their weaknesses? It's easier to say, I'm tall, I may not be the best starter, but I'm a great finisher. I'm going to go work on my top speed. Conversely, shorter athletes are told that they lack stride length, no ability to hop from foot to foot, so they spend all their time working on acceleration. But think about this. Long jump is one massive stride length into the pit. These three characters all jumped 890 plus, being 188 and 190 respectively. But Ivan Pedroso, 5'9", did this. Stride length is about plyometric power. To be a great sprinter, you've got to maximize and then balance your stride length and your stride frequency. The biggest factor in stride length isn't the length of your leg, it's the power from the floor and the correct angle of trajectory. At 5'7", your height's not going to hinder your dreams. Otherwise, by that rationale, the 100-meter lineup would just be full of NBA rejects. And it isn't. I mean, yeah, 3'1"'s going to have to re-strategize as much as 8'2" will, because in the sprints, those two are extremes. But in the range of like 5'5" to 6'5", it's what you personally bring to the table in terms of skill, knowledge, and your mastery of your own personal body that's going to be the biggest determining factor whether you end up in the Olympic final or not. The hindrance to be aware of are injury and not finding and resolving the limiting factors to your performance quickly enough. These are some things to look out for. Correct neural firing sequence. Great sprinters have very efficient neural firing sequences for sprinting. And this often comes from correct and well-established movement patterns from when they were growing up. The next thing, correct muscle balance for you individually. After that, high levels of specific mobility for sprinting. And finally, neural coordination for the skill of that one discipline. And that means a lot of hours of practicing and honing the movement pattern to you personally, so that it is so ingrained and reinforced that when you add intensity to it, it doesn't alter. You need to be able to generate a lot of power from hip flexion to hip hyperextension through neural coordination before you ever load it. And finally, you need to have an advantageous body weight that feeds back into your power to weight ratio. And yeah, I know, studies have shown in the last century that times have got faster as centre of mass has gone up. But I don't think that means a higher standing centre of mass means you're going to be faster. No, the higher your moving centre of mass is, then the faster you are. Not the length of your legs, as measured by some dubious tailor with a whole load of cupping and flicking.
That's how they do pants!
I hope this helps. Hit the like button, because let me tell you something.
Bustin' makes me feel good.
And if you like my vibe, please subscribe.
Woo!